Gucci walk in the damn studio, bro, with his people, to Draco's. The fucking footage is going to show Pooh Shiesty had one on him, Big30 had one on him. Only person who really gonna escape from this is the Pops. The Pops did not want none of this to go on. Nigga like this, bro. Gucci look at the dad like the Pops just head down. You can't tell your son nothing right now. Your son the number one right now. You gonna sign this? Sign the damn papers. And we need that. Wedding ring. Watch. Come about that.
You ever hear a story so crazy it sounds fake, but somehow people swear it's real? Because what I'm about to tell you involves Gucci Mane, a rap legend who built careers, created stars, and turned street talent into million-dollar brands. A man who helped shape an entire era of hip-hop. Now imagine this. You're in a private studio session, business meeting, contracts on the table, everything normal. And then, out of nowhere, the people you trusted the most walk in and everything flips. We're talking about Pooh Shiesty, one of the hottest names to come out of Memphis. The same artist Gucci personally signed. The same artist he helped turn into a star. And right beside him, Big30, not even signed to Gucci, but there anyway. What happened next, according to what's been circulating, involves weapons, contracts, loyalty, betrayal, and a situation that could change all of their lives forever. But here's the part nobody talks about. This didn't just happen overnight. This story started way before that studio. And once you see the full picture, it hits completely different. Before we get to that moment in the studio, you have to understand how everything even got here. Because this wasn't random. It didn't just explode out of nowhere. This story starts years earlier with a man who already had nothing left to prove. Gucci Mane wasn't just another rapper trying to stay relevant. By the time all of this began, he had already lived multiple lives in the music industry. He built his name from the ground up, turned street credibility into business power, and created a label that became a launch pad for some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Artists came in unknown and left as stars. That's the thing about Gucci. His real talent wasn't just music. It was spotting raw energy before the rest of the world caught on. And around 2020, that's exactly what he found again. A young artist out of Memphis, hungry, aggressive, and impossible to ignore. Pooh Shiesty. At the time, Shiesty wasn't polished. He wasn't industry trained. But what he had was real. His sound felt like the streets. His voice carried weight. And most importantly, people were paying attention. Gucci saw it early. While others were still watching from a distance, he made the move. Signed him to 1017. Put resources behind him. Gave him a platform most artists spend years chasing. And almost immediately it paid off. Within months, Pooh Shiesty went from a name buzzing online to a name everywhere. Records started moving. Streams went up. The industry took notice. Then came the breakout moment. Back in Blood, featuring Lil Durk. That record didn't just perform. It exploded. It climbed charts, dominated playlists, and turned Pooh Shiesty into a national figure. Not just a regional artist anymore, a real player in the game. And once that door opened, everything else followed. Features, attention, momentum. Then his debut project dropped, and it hit hard. Strong numbers, strong presence. For someone that new to the mainstream, it was a statement. From the outside looking in, it was the perfect success story. A young artist gets discovered by a legend, gets signed, blows up, and starts building a career. But behind the scenes, things weren't that simple. Because Pooh Shiesty didn't come alone. He brought his people with him. One name in particular mattered the most. Big Scar. That wasn't just another artist. That was family. Someone who had been through real situations. Someone who had survived things most people wouldn't understand. His story wasn't clean, it wasn't polished, but it was real. And that's exactly what made it connect. Pooh Shiesty believed in him. So he did what a lot of artists dream about doing. He reached back and tried to bring his people up with him. He put Big Scar in front of Gucci. And just like before, Gucci saw something, another signing, another opportunity. Now, it wasn't just one artist from Memphis under the 1017 umbrella. It was a movement. And for a moment, everything looked aligned. But success changes dynamics. Money changes dynamics. Contracts change everything. Because while the spotlight was getting brighter, the pressure behind the scenes was getting heavier. And then real life started interrupting the momentum. Legal issues, cases, situations that don't just go away because your song is on the charts. While his career was rising, problems were building at the same time. And eventually, those problems caught up. Pooh Shiesty found himself facing serious charges. The kind that don't just disappear. The kind that stop everything. Suddenly, the music paused. The momentum paused. The future became uncertain. He goes from being one of the hottest new names in rap to sitting in a cell, watching everything from a distance. And here's where things start to shift mentally. Because when you're locked in one place with time, no distractions, no movement, your perspective changes. You start thinking about everything differently. Your career, your deals, the people around you, and most importantly, what you feel like you're owed. Meanwhile, on the outside, life kept moving. The label kept operating. Music kept dropping. And then something happened that hit way deeper than business. The loss of Big Scar. That wasn't just industry news. That was personal. That was family. And from everything that started circulating afterward, the situation didn't just bring grief, it brought tension. Stories, accusations, conversations online, questions about loyalty, questions about money, questions about how things were handled behind the scenes. Now, whether every detail was true or not didn't even matter at that point, because perception becomes reality. And from where Pooh Shiesty was sitting locked away, already dealing with his own situation, everything started to look different. The same opportunity that once felt like a blessing started to feel like something else, something restrictive, something he couldn't control. And when you mix that kind of mindset with time, frustration, and outside noise, it builds, slowly, quietly, until one day, it turns into something bigger. Because by the time he got out, this wasn't just about music anymore. This wasn't just about charts, or success, or even loyalty. It had turned into something deeper, something personal. And whatever conversations needed to happen, they weren't going to stay simple. Because eventually, a meeting gets set up, a studio session, business on the surface. But underneath, too many unresolved issues, too many emotions, too many questions that never got answered. And that's what makes what happens next feel so different. Because when everyone walked into that room, they weren't all walking in with the same mindset. And once that door closed, everything changed. So when that meeting finally got set up, on the surface, it looked like business as usual. A studio in Dallas. Private. Controlled. The kind of place where deals get talked through, problems get handled, and music gets made. Nothing unusual about that in this industry. And for Gucci Mane, this wasn't his first time walking into a situation like this. He'd been in rooms with artists at every stage. Hungry newcomers, rising stars, frustrated signees. Conversations about contracts? That was normal. But what he couldn't see was everything building behind the scenes before that day even arrived. Because while this meeting was being framed as a discussion, according to what's been circulating, there were other conversations happening too. Phone calls, movements, people linking up before anyone ever stepped into that studio. And at the center of all of it, Pooh Shiesty. By this point, he wasn't the same artist who first got signed. Too much had happened. Time away, legal pressure, personal loss, public controversy. All of that changes how you walk into a room. And then there's the people around you. Because no one moves alone in situations like this. Names start popping up. Familiar faces from Memphis. People who weren't part of the original deal, but were now somehow part of the moment. And one name stands out immediately. Big30. Now here's what makes that detail hit different. Big30 wasn't signed to Gucci. He didn't have a contract dispute in this situation. His career was moving on a completely separate path. Which raises the question, why was he there? The only answer that seems to make sense is loyalty. And in this industry, loyalty can be powerful, but can also pull people into situations that have nothing to do with them. So now you've got multiple people, multiple mindsets, all converging on one location. And then the day comes. Everyone arrives. Everything looks normal at first. No chaos. No visible tensión. Just a meeting. Contracts. Conversation. The kind of setup where you expect negotiation, not escalation. But underneath that calm surface, something else is sitting there. Because when people walk into a room carrying frustration, resentment, and unfinished business, it doesn't take much for things to shift. And according to the version of events that's been spreading, that shift happened fast. What was supposed to be a discussion suddenly wasn't just a discussion anymore. The energy in the room changed. Tone changed. Body language changed. And once that line gets crossed, there's no going back to just business. Now again, this is where things become allegations, not confirmed fact. But the story that's been told paints a picture of that moment, turning into something much more serious than anyone expected. A situation where control became the focus, where pressure replaced negotiation, where the idea of talking it out disappeared completely, and instead, everything started moving in a direction that could have permanent consequences. Because think about it, you got a high-level artist, a major label connection, contracts tied to money, ownership, and future earnings. Those aren't small conversations. Those are the kinds of conversations where emotions can run high, especially if one side feels trapped. And if someone walks in already believing they don't have control anymore, they might try to take it back. Not the right way, not the smart way, but in a way that feels immediate. That's what makes this situation so intense. Because if even part of what's being claimed is true, then this wasn't just about anger. It was about desperation, about trying to force an outcome instead of negotiating one. Meanwhile, inside that same space, you've got Gucci Mane, someone who's been through real situations before, someone who understands how fast things can go left. So imagine recognizing in real time that something isn't right, that the energy in the room isn't normal anymore, that this isn't just a tense conversation. It's turning into something else entirely. And once that realization hits, everything becomes about getting through the moment. Because situations like that, they don't come with warnings. They don't give you time to reset. They just escalate. And according to what's been described, that escalation involved more than just words. It became a situation where presence, positioning, and control of the room mattered more than anything being said. People moving, doors being watched, no one casually walking in or out anymore. That alone tells you everything you need to know about how serious it had become. And Big30's role in all of this, that's where things get even more complicated. Because again, he didn't start this situation, but being there, being involved in any capacity, changes everything legally and personally. Moments like that don't separate who planned what. They group everyone together. And that's the risk of showing up for someone without knowing exactly what you're stepping into. Because once you're in it, you're in it. No easy way out. No quick explanation later. Just consequences. And at the center of it all, still the same core issue: control, contracts, freedom. Who has it and who doesn't? Because at the end of the day, that's what this entire situation seems to revolve around. An artist who felt stuck. A deal that couldn't be easily escaped. And a decision, right or wrong, to try to change that situation in a way that bypassed everything normal. No lawyers, no formal negotiations, just direct action. And that's what makes this part of the story feel so heavy. Because it's not just about what happened. It's about how fast everything went from opportunity to conflict, from success to risk, from business to something that could carry consequences far beyond music. And the truth is, moments like that don't end when people leave the room. That's just where they start. Because once something like this happens, it sets off a chain reaction. People talk, information spreads, authorities get involved, and suddenly what happened in private isn't private anymore. And that's exactly where this story goes next. Because what came after that studio meeting, that's where everything really starts to unfold. What happened inside that studio didn't stay there. Situations like that never do. Because the moment something crosses that line from business into something more serious, it triggers a chain reaction that no one in that room can control anymore. And that's exactly what started happening after that day in Dallas. At first, it's quiet. People leave. Phones start ringing. Different versions of the story begin to circulate. Some exaggerated, some incomplete, some possibly closer to the truth than others. But one thing is consistent across all of them. Something went very wrong in that meeting. Now, think about the level of people involved. You're not talking about unknown names. You're talking about Gucci Mane, a figure with deep industry ties, real influence, and access to resources most people don't have. So when something serious allegedly happens in his presence, it doesn't just disappear. It gets attention, fast. And once attention turns into scrutiny, everything starts getting looked at differently. Movements, locations, who was there, who arrived together, who left together. Because in situations like this, it's not just about what happened in the moment. It's about everything connected to it. And this is where the story shifts from speculation into something heavier. Because according to what's been circulating, what followed wasn't just industry gossip. It became something official, something that brought in outside eyes. Now again, this is where we stay clear. These are claims and narratives being discussed, not confirmed facts presented as truth. But the version of events that's been spreading describes a situation where details started lining up in a way that raised serious questions. Patterns, timelines, movements between cities. And when you start connecting those dots, it paints a bigger picture. Because this wasn't just a random run-in. It was being described as something organized, planned, with multiple people playing different roles. And if that's even partially accurate, that changes everything. Because now you're no longer talking about a heated moment. You're talking about coordination. And coordination brings consequences on a completely different level. Names begin getting pulled into the conversation. People who weren't even in the spotlight before. Associates, connections, individuals whose only link to the situation was being present or involved at some stage. And that's the part a lot of people overlook. It's not always about who started something. It's about who was there when it happened. Because once things reach that level, everyone connected gets pulled into the same gravity, including Big 30. And this is where the weight of loyalty really shows its other side. Because showing up for someone standing next to them in a moment that can redefine your entire future, not because of your own actions alone, but because of the situation you chose to be part of. And then there's Pooh Shiesty at the center of it all. A career that had already been interrupted once. Momentum that had already taken a hit. A second chance that, from the outside, looked like an opportunity to reset everything. But instead, he's right back in a position where everything is uncertain again. And that's what makes this story hit different. Because it's not just about one moment. It's about patterns, decisions, and how quickly things can repeat themselves when the environment doesn't change. Meanwhile, the public side of things starts heating up. Social media conversations, speculation channels, people picking sides without knowing the full picture. Some blaming the system, some blaming the artist, some blaming the people around him. And in the middle of all that noise, the actual truth becomes harder to separate from a narrative. Because once a story reaches that level, it doesn't stay controlled anymore. It becomes bigger than the people involved. And that's exactly what happened here. Because now the conversation isn't just about music. It's about consequences, about how far things went, and what comes next. Because no matter which version of the story you believe, one thing is clear. Nothing about this situation ends quickly. These kinds of cases, real or alleged, don't resolve overnight. They stretch. They develop. They bring new information over time. And every new detail shifts how people see the entire situation. But step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. A legendary artist builds a platform, finds new talent, gives them an opportunity. That talent rises fast, but also faces real-world pressure at the same time. Personal loss enters the picture. Trust gets questioned. And somewhere along the way, communication breaks down. That combination, it's dangerous. Because when opportunity, pressure, emotion, and money all collide, you either get growth where you get situations like this. And the hardest part? Everyone involved loses something. Reputation, momentum, freedom, peace of mind. Even if the full truth isn't public, the impact is. Because once your name gets attached to something like this, it follows you in headlines, in conversations, in how people look at you moving forward. And for someone like Gucci Mane, this isn't just another moment. It's a reminder that even after everything he's built, even after all the experience, the industry still comes with risks you can't fully control. And for the others involved, it's a lesson that comes at a much higher cost. Because some decisions, they don't just affect the moment. They define everything that comes after. And that's where the story leaves us. Not with a clean ending, not with a clear resolution, but with a situation that's still being talked about, still being debated, and still raising one big question. How did it even get this far? If this story caught you off guard, that's exactly why you need to stay tapped in. Because situations like this, they don't just come out of nowhere. There's always a deeper story, a build-up, and details most people never hear about. From the rise of Gucci Mane, to the pressure-filled journey of Pooh Shiesty, to how names like Big30 get pulled into moments that can change everything overnight. This is bigger than just headlines. And if you really pay attention, there are lessons in every part of it. About loyalty, about business, about the choices people make when they feel like they've run out of options. So if you want more breakdowns like this, stories that go deeper than what's trending, that connect the dots, and actually show you the full picture, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the next story might be even crazier than this one. And trust me, you don't want to miss it.